You're back.
We're back.
Oh,
I
good, good.
was saying, Professor, that I'm going to use one of my cultural words. I'm hanging in there.
All right, very nice. Yeah, yeah, you're hanging in there. That's good. You don't want to take a time out.
Not at all.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Let me see here. Oh, I think we got, do we get everyone back? I think so. Yeah, good, 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 good. All right. So, uh, were you able to share the ideas that you had when you planned out this paragraph? Good, good. One of the things that you want to make sure is, you know, you want to make sure that you are being mindful of how you're organizing your ideas and what's effective and what's not. I'm going to turn things over to Professor Lawler because she has something she would like to share. Are you ready, Prof? You're muted, just so you know.
Okay. Okay, I think I'm sharing my screen. Yeah. All right, now let's see if I have enough sense to show you what I want to show you. Wish me luck. Let's see, I want to, well, can I do it? Let's just do it this way. Do you know who that is? Anybody have a guess who this is?
We can't see your screen, Ms. Lawler.
Well, then you wouldn't know what I'm showing you. Great. Let me try again. Now can you see my screen?
Oh,
It's a
yes?
baby?
yes.
So,
Yeah, who
so
is this?
beautiful.
Let's see if I can. Who's that? Whose baby is that? Does it look like her? Doesn't that look like Diana? It's like a little mini me. Isn't that hilarious? That is Diana's baby who was born yesterday just before noon, and her name is Eliza Isabel Cutzia. So if you want to shoot Diana an email, I'm sure she would appreciate that. But I'm not done. Hold on, I've got another one to show you. But doesn't that look like Diana? It cracks me up. Asked her if she was ready to come tutor her LLMs, and Diana said, give it about 25 years, and we'll talk. Okay, and here's the other thing I want to show you.
Wow. So beautiful.
Wow, it's so pretty.
She just looked like my little one.
It's beautiful.
She's so responsive. Like she's like her eyes are open. Normally, babies, they keep their eyes closed.
That's it. That's all I've got. I'm going to stop sharing and send it back to Dr. Bunting. I just wanted to share that with you. So she was born at 11:48 yesterday. So she's what, like 34 hours old, something like that. Yeah, 33 hours old. I don't know. I'm not a mathematician. Anyway, yeah, she's adorable. Her name is Eliza, Eliza. Sending it back to Dr. Bunting.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay. Thank you. That's so wonderful, Diana. That's some good news here. Thank goodness. Okay. I wanted to mention to you, and Professor Lawler, you can also jump in if you want as we're talking about this. When you are submitting documents, I will send you back feedback, and there are some symbols that you're going to see there. For example, if there's an issue with singular and plural, you're just going to see that little sign. Articles, the article use, and bear in mind that sometimes the issues that either Professor Lawler or I will raise may have there may be a distinction between the U.S. variation of English and other Englishes. So it's something that, and I don't want you to think there's a right or a wrong. It's just knowing your audience. This is something that may occur where you will see that something may be perceived as being sexist. We'll talk about that in more detail. If you have something that's informal, I will make a note of that for you. WC is word choice, just so you know. And WO is word order, prepositions, punctuation, the verb tense, the verb form. If there's an issue, I noticed a lot of things, and it's interesting. There were a lot of capitalization issues where people were capitalizing things. I'm not sure if it was necessarily at random, but it was in a way that was unusual. So you are going to want to pay attention to that. And you can take comfort in the fact that the current president of the United States is a big fan of random capital letters. Go figure. Spelling, that's always an issue. A comma splice, I saw quite a bit of these too. And again, this is something that in spoken language, it's not even an issue. But in formal written language, it is an issue. And this is different in different languages. But this is where you are combining two sentences and all you do is use a comma between them. That's not considered effective academic writing. Your idea still gets across, but it is not. I recommend trying to remove that from what you're writing. If something is just awkward and there's nothing specific that I can identify, you're going to get that one. If something is not parallel in the structure, so if you're giving me a list of things, or there's something where, and this actually comes not just to grammar, but also to elegance in your writing, that you want to make sure that things are parallel. And if you look at great legal writers, they're amazing at doing this. They almost develop a cadence, a musicality of their language because they balance the things that they're talking about. And you guys will be able to do that, I know. Subject-verb agreement, fragments, which were also quite common, is that where you're giving a statement, but it's not a complete sentence. In some types of writing, that's fine. In academic, legal English, it's usually not appropriate. And then a run-on is where you just have a whole bunch of words that are going and going and going, and you've forgotten about punctuation, and you need to rework those. So these are some of the notes. And just so you know, when I put these in here, there are options. I will tell you something, and if I may tell you exactly how to fix it. I may let you see that I've given you this code, but I don't go any farther because I want you to figure it out, or I think you can figure it out. And if you at any point something is not clear, you can always talk to me, Professor Lawler, or the crew, as I like to call them, Veronica and Josh and Hannah and Desiree. You can always talk to them. And you can also, it's okay to be argumentative because you are the writer here. So you can also push back if there are things that we're suggesting or demanding. You can also push back and say why or wait a minute, because you guys also have a great deal of expertise already. Okay. I also want to mention, and some of you may have already done something where you have submitted. I have a document folder called Turn It In, and you can submit any document you want there, any Word document, and it's not being graded. I'm not going to look at those, but you can go in there and put it in there, because when you get, I try to put this for all of our assignments, when you put an assignment in as a Word document, we are going to do what's called the originality analysis. And that relates to something called plagiarism, which is a very important issue that's taken very seriously at this university and especially at the College of Law. What happens is when you submit something, it will tell us if anything in that document has come from another source. So here's, and I've set it up so that A lot of professors won't do this, but you can go in and actually look at this data about your own writing. So here we have a paper that was submitted, and it shows me that 45% of this document is from another source. That's not a good thing. You can use sources, but if you're going to use exact quotations from sources, you must put them in quotation marks. Those then are excluded from this. So if you're in quotation marks, that's not going to be part of this. This is just the text, and you have to realize the assumption from the university is whatever you're writing is your original work. You're not just copying and pasting from another source. If you copy and paste from another source and you don't put it in the right citation format and the quotations and all that, it's considered plagiarism. You get a 0, you can fail the class, you can get kicked out of school. All these terrible things can happen. It's a serious thing. And the reason why I put this into our iCollege is I don't want anyone to be caught by surprise by this kind of a thing. And part of it is this, I don't know if it's capitalistic or individualistic, but this ownership of ideas is taken very, very seriously here. So we have to make sure. So if you put something in and you see that it's got a whole bunch of red here, this tells you that number one, 26% was written by somebody else at Georgia State. 17% was taken from a website called law.umkc.edu. And then 1%, not a big deal, came from Google Scholar. You can also then look at your specific text that you've written, and you will see exactly what was taken from where. This whole part that's in sort of an orange was taken from that Georgia State paper. You cannot do that. This whole part, number 2, all of this, the rest of that paragraph was taken from a website from the UK. You cannot do that. Those kinds of things are considered academic dishonesty and can be grounds for dismissal from the program. So I want to make sure that there's never any uncertainty about this. And if you're not clear about something, you can always talk to me, you can talk to Professor Lawler, you can talk to the crew, always. But before you turn something in, all right? Because once it's turned in, it's kind of out of our hands, so that if something comes in and we consider that it's plagiarized, we have to report that. And that's not a road anybody wants to go down. And we're going to do our best to help you not have any mistakes in that area. Are there any questions about that? And forgive me, I will come back to this at different points in the semester. And the reason I will is because I've had traumatic experiences where I've seen people have their academic careers destroyed by this. So I don't want that to happen to anyone here, whether you decide to do it or if it's done accidentally. I don't want that to happen. Okay. Hedging. What is hedging? Any ideas? It's not something that grows around your house. Those are hedges. So hedging is when you are trying to make something deliberately ambiguous or equivocal because you want to avoid over-committing to something. And it is, this is a phrase I like, you're confidently uncertain. So you're not going to overstate the case. And it can also help you show your view or your perspective on whatever it is that you're writing about. It can be considered ambiguous, and it can be frustrating if people want something very definitive. But oftentimes there is a good reason not to be definitive, especially if you're being asked to assume what somebody else will decide, what a court might decide, for example. You don't really know, but you want to make the statement, but you can't be 100% certain. So here we have a couple of things. there are 3 sentences here. And I want you to just take a look at them and see what words are adding a little uncertainty there, or I like to call it fuzziness. And you can feel free to, you can unmute and say something if you want.
Perhaps.
Nice. I like that one.
Possibly and might.
Yeah. So notice perhaps, possibly. There is a fear that I think you could also say, and that might. All of those are giving us, instead of just making a direct statement, and let's face it, sometimes we want direct statements. If it's a fact, we want it to be clear. But sometimes you don't want to have that clarity if it's not warranted. Another thing for hedging is to move responsibility. It wasn't me. Mistakes were made, but I'm not going to say who. What words here shift the responsibility to someone who's not me?
We.
What was that?
We.
While we do not dispute,
Mm.
well, that part, that's pretty straightforward. But what about the last part of that sentence?
Statute.
Statute.
Yeah, the words of the statute do not permit it. And then you can also notice in the second one, and this actually has, it can have two functions. One is the hedging, where you're not saying, this is not my idea. And it's also attribution. This is someone else's idea. So that second one actually serves a couple of functions, because you're not saying it's my idea. You're saying this, hey, I didn't do this, somebody else did it. All right. And you can also want to soften the argument. Now, so notice, let me see here. Oh yeah. Look at that first sentence about we must bear in mind. And what is softening the force of your argument? If I'm saying, don't do this.
In the best interest?
Well, in the best interest, I think is still pretty clear, although I guess you could make an argument that that's softening it a little bit.
May not always.
I like that. Yeah, the may not always be. Because if I say that zoning is not in the best interest of an individual, that's pretty definitive, right? It's whatever happens, it's not. And then look at the bottom. Which one of those two is softer?
The second one.
Very much, yeah.
May also.
Yep. Yeah. And there's actually another one. I'm glad I have my little yellow highlighting. We must bear in mind is also another way to hedge. So it's just saying, let's, we're not going to make this as direct. We're softening it a little bit. So both of those things, yeah. And you also sometimes want to depersonalize, and that's where you take away your agency. Even though it's you that's writing it, you're taking away the agency. So one of these things is telling you what I or we believe, but the other one, it's clear. That's nice and vague. It's clear. But who's it clear to? Who says that it's clear? Don't worry about that. We'll keep it vague. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not taking ownership. And that's part of what hedging is about. And then also we might want to add a limitation.
My grant.
I like that. Might grant. Let me see. Is there something else? Might grant. I would also add, I didn't highlight it here, but the whole if on remand, because it does also add a limitation. But I agree with you, the might, and I think the if helps you add the limitation. But might is definitely the one I would go with. All right. And then, and this is a quote about case law here. Court opinions should be both specific enough to resolve the case before the court and general enough to be used as a basis for future courts when deciding a similar case. And it's interesting because this actually connects to some of the things I was reading in your legal education essays about the differences in the different law systems. Because these, you know, judges and justices write their opinions knowing that they are going to be used to help address future issues. So that's one of the reasons why they hedge, because they don't want to be caught. And some of the strategies that we use when we want to hedge is we can use modals. We also can use adjectives that show probability. It's possible, it's probable, it's likely, it's unlikely. We can use adverbs. And we also can use what we call modal lexical verbs to seem. It seems that, it appears that, to assume, to suggest, to indicate. All of those things help kind of soften what you're saying. And it's interesting, and as you're looking at the different writing that you work on throughout the semester, you'll see that there are times where you want to be very direct and very clear because that's a good aspect of writing. And then there are times where you want to be hedging. And just because I love language, these are in Supreme Court cases from the con law class. I don't think anyone's taking that right now, right? That's next semester, maybe. Oh, Sean is good. There's a lot of presumably in there. So these are just, I look at the language from a different angle. And then there are some edges, some hedging phrases, not edging, hedging phrases that you use for introductions. To our knowledge, it's our belief, it's generally assumed, it seems reasonable or probable, it appears that. These are all things that are commonly used in court decisions as well as in other legal documents. Oh, and it is suggested. And what I wanted to do, yeah, I think we can do this. Do me a favor, we're not going to break into rooms for this, but I just want you to take a look at these 4 sentences and see if you might, how you could soften these. So just take a look and see what you might do.
On the first one, you can say sexual education may lead to promiscuity in young people.
Great. Yeah, it may lead to promiscuity in young people. Good. What else?
Or we can start it with it's a
General
general
belief.
belief. Mm-hmm.
Why? I was thinking the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is believed, it's assumed, it's probable. Yep, those are all things.
I refrain using the word never.
You never use never?
I'm not saying that never, but I'm very careful to say that.
You're very wise.
I'm very wise when I use never.
That's right. Well, let's take a look at some examples because also we're running out of time and I do want to talk about, Professor Lawler has something she wants you to do, but let's just take a look here. With the sex education sentence, you could say may or may not. As you guys were saying, it's generally assumed that. Sex education, my favorite word, presumably leads. And now notice this one, and this is an interesting element for you to consider. How soft do you want to go? Because you can say sex education may lead to, instead of just promiscuity as a light switch turning on and off, increased promiscuity, maybe a little more, in some young people. Now you can take all of these hedging to such a great degree that it becomes, please, don't be so vague. But those are one of the things you can do. And it depends what you want to express as a writer. The way to alleviate the pain from this disorder is through physical therapy, or the way to help alleviate the pain. It seems reasonable that the way to alleviate the pain is through this physical therapy. It might be through physical therapy. One way to help alleviate the pain. All of these are ways that you can say, I'm giving you this information, but it's not the only thing. It's not absolute. And then managers will be unable to initiate changes if they don't have the support of their employees. Might not. That's pretty good, right? I mean, will is very absolute. Almost all managers, maybe, and again, this is where you want to think, what are the areas that I want to hedge about? Do I want to hedge about the action for all people? Or is it this action just for some of the people? And Lily said, don't use never. Never use never. So it's not recommended to use that font for this style of writing. And just so you know, I heard the first year I was here working with the law school, I heard a professor say, I will never accept that paper if you use the wrong font size or something like that. Students should probably never use. So you still have never, but you've softened it a little bit. And I would argue, even though Lily will disagree with me, maybe sometimes you really do mean never. So who knows? All right. Okay. Professor Lawler, was there something you wanted to, oops, let me go back. Did you want to show them something or?
Yeah, I do. I'm eating a lemon drop. I'm sorry. This is the problem with me being in my office is I have good things to eat in here. So I apologize.
That's what I love about your office. There's always good snacks.
I know. I wish I had students here with me because I've got loads of snacks and no one to share them with me. I do have something to share with you, to do with you actually, a final wind up exercise, but it won't take long. It's quick. But also I wanted to tell you my favorite hedging word by far. Dr. Bunny, do you remember my favorite hedging word?
I should remember that.
Of all the hedging words, well, it begins with an L, just like Leila Lawler. By far my favorite hedging word that I use 1,000 times every time I write a paper.
Anyone have any ideas?
I love the word likely.
Likely.
I'm sorry I gave it away. Sorry, yeah, likely. I love likely. I think, yeah, it just has a good ring to it. Sounds kind of studious. Sounds better than maybe. Likely sounds better to me. All righty, so let's do this activity. We'll call this, oh shoot, I have to share my screen, don't I?
Maybe. It's likely that you have to share your screen.
Good answer, Dr. Bunting. Good answer. Okay, share screen, screen one. Okay. Now you can see my screen, right? Let me see some heads go. Yes, okay. Nikki gave me a thumbs up. We're good. Okay, so no, I don't want to leave the meeting. I just want you to get out of my face. Go away. Okay, it went away. Keep phone connected. Yes, I don't know what it's telling me. Go away. Why won't you go away? Here, I'll put you over there. Okay, this is what we're going to do. This is the role, and this is just a quick little exercise, and we did the presentations about the comparison of your current legal education and your previous legal education. We did it alphabetically. So we'll do this in reverse alphabetical order. And if I misspelled your name, I apologize. And Jose and Renee, will you guys teach me how to put the little accent mark over the E, because I don't know how to do that.
Sure.
And so every time I do it correctly, I have to copy and paste from something you've written me. How do you do that?
I'm actually not sure on an American/English keyboard because my keyboard is Danish. So because
Yes,
I mean,
I can
mine's in
Google
Spanish,
it.
so it just appears on the.
Yeah, I think it's somewhere around Alt 263 or Alt 261, something like that.
Okay, all right. I'll Google it, or I'll ask Dr. Bunting later for some
Otherwise it
remedial
does-
typing
it's okay
help.
for me.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, and if I misspelled anybody's name, I apologize for that. So this is what we're going to do. This is the winding things up activity. We're going to go in this order. I'm going to start it. So this is alphabetical backwards. So I'm going to start by stating the sentence, and then the first student, who is Angela, is going to take my sentence and add a hedging device. Then that same student is going to write her own sentence just in the air. Just, you don't have to write it down on a piece of paper. Just say a sentence. So Angela will then say a sentence, and Renee will add a hedging device, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so on. And it is fine to be silly. It is fine as wine. It makes it more memorable. You will remember hedging devices better if you can remember some humor. And then when we finish, the hedging will be finished. And so you see the hedges turned into this beautiful thing because we know now how to hedge. All right, so this is my sentence, which is typed at the bottom here. Angela, you ready?
Yeah,
You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm getting some really bad feedback.
You can hear me?
Hey, Doctor, yeah, now I can, much better. Say something again.
Oh.
Angela?
Mm-hmm. So you guys,
Hey, Dr. Gunning, will you try
you
muting everybody and then just the speaker can unmute? Will you try muting everybody?
Sure. Let me see.
Thank you. All right, so the host has muted everyone. So my sentence, Angela, your challenge to hedge is this sentence. The class ends at 7:45 and the professor will be the first one to blaze out the door of the classroom.
Likely. So I use the word likely.
Okay, put it in that sentence. Put likely in that sentence.
So the class is likely to end in 7 minutes and the professor will, what do you say? Blessing? What were the last words? I didn't write that down. It was too long.
Yeah, good. No. Well, it's written here. That's why yours doesn't have to be as long, but mine's written here. But I thought maybe the person.
Okay. Now, the class is likely to end at 7:45, and the professor will be the first one to blaze out the door of the classroom.
Perfect. Now you give us a sentence for Renee.
Oh, wow.
Hey, Renee, why don't you just pick it up and give us a sentence for Cookie Bay?
Vanish.
Oh, I was muted. Okay. Okay, my sentence. I'm going to grab a beer after this class.
Sorry.
Okay, so now, Cookie Bay, would you please take that? I'm going to grab a beer after this class and put in a hedging word.
Okay. I might grab a beer at the end of this class.
Perfect. Okay, now you give us a sentence, Cookie Bay, for Melissa.
I will go to the movies after the class.
Melissa.
Unmute. Oh, there you are. Good.
Am I okay?
Yep, you're good. We can hear you.
I have lost the sentence, so I have to make my own sentence, or do I? Cookie said something, but I've missed it.
He said he is going to the movie after this class. So put a hedging word in there and then make your own sentence.
Oh, I may attend the movie using his. I may attend the movie.
Perfect. And I like that you used a different hedging word. Let's see if we can mix it up and use some different kinds of hedging words. And now you make a sentence, please, Melissa, for Umar. Let's go fast. Because this professor has to blaze out the door. This professor is likely to blaze out the door.
I love to exercise every morning.
Perfect. Okay, so now up is Umar. Umar, put a hedging word in there.
I usually exercise in the morning.
That'll work. And now you give us a sentence, please, for Gabby. Fast as lightning.
Lawyering skill is one of the important subject in LLM bar track, preparation track. Yeah.
Perhaps lawyering skills
Classes.
is
There you go.
classes. And I will say the cat was running, trying to trap the rat.
Trap the rat. Mommy?
Okay, Gabriella, I didn't quite catch what you said.
The cat was running, trying to trap the cat. I'm sorry, the rat.
I doubt that the cat caught the rat.
That'll work. Now give us a sentence for Zainab. Fast as lightning.
Okay. I would like to have a nap after this class.
Great. Okie doke. Now, Zainab.
It is likely I have a nap after this class. And the next one should, okay, the examination was an easy one.
Was it? Oh,
Okay, who's up next? Nikki.
That's me.
The examination was an easy one.
It seems the examination wasn't the easy one. And I go
well done.
Dr. Bonning is hilarious. That's my sentence. He cracks me up.
He cracks me up too. Likely he cracks me up.
It seems that
Okay,
Dr.
Jose?
Bunting is hilarious.
Well
It
done.
does seem that
Jose.
way, yes,
And now
thank
your
you.
sentence.
Okay, so my sentence is, my car ran out of gas early in the morning.
It's look like my car is running out of gas this morning.
Good, good.
And I'm gonna go.
Now you do one for Ashish.
I'm going to eat some dinner after class.
All righty. Up next is Ashish.
I'm certain that I'm going to eat dinner after this class.
Is that hedging, Dr. Bunting? I'm certain that I'm going to eat dinner after this class.
That's actually anti-hedging.
Oh, okay.
but it is giving your view.
In the interest of time.
I believe I'm going to eat something after this class.
Perfect.
Okay. My sentence will be, the corona vaccine will be ready by end of this year.
So up next is Kezia.
Yes, the corona vaccine probably will be available at the end of this year. My sentence is, I hope the semester will end early.
Cassie, it's funny, it's Dr. Bunting.
It appears that the semester might go early. And my sentence is, Professor Leela is very kind and comforting teacher.
Okay, you got to hedge that one now.
Professor Leela has been considered a very kind and comforting teacher. And my sentence is, life is like a box of chocolates.
Nuru.
So up next is Nuru. Life is like a box of chocolates. Good sentence, Daniel. Sounds very much like a movie I've heard.
Perhaps life is as nice as a box of chocolates.
Perfect. That's well done.
Okay.
Perfect.
This trial will not end this week.
Sean Eckler?
It is likely that the trial never ends this week. So
well done. Now your sentence.
Okay, can I quote that sentence? Is it possible, Professor Bunting, Dr. Bunting? Okay, quote, trial courts search for truth. Trial courts search for truth. If it doesn't make sense, I can change it.
That's for Julia, right?
Trial courts. What was the sentence again? Trial courts search for the truth.
Search for truth. Yeah.
Trial courts may search for the truth.
Well done.
May search for the truth. My sentence is, teenagers are stubborn.
Some teenagers are stubborn.
Okay, that's what I was looking for.
Nice.
My question, or I say a sentence and then I say something for somebody else.
You give a sentence and then Dean Roy is going to hedge it for you.
Okay. Never say never.
Dean Roy?
That is a hard one to hedge.
That's a hard one. Perhaps it's best never to say never.
Perfect.
And mine is, mine one is pretty simple. Professor Leila loves being a grandparent.
Loves what?
Sorry,
Professor Lola loves being a grandparent.
I didn't hear that. The end of that.
Professor Lola loves being a grandparent.
Loves being a grandparent?
Oh,
I'm not a grandparent.
Oh.
Let me hedge that one.
That didn't sound like hedging, Professor Lawler.
Yeah.
Let me change it.
That was anti-hedging, Dr. Bunting.
Let me change that. Parenting is hard work.
Better.
Mm-hmm. It is assumed that parenting is hard work.
That's great. Okay, well done. I enjoyed this hedging activity. I have to go run downstairs and teach another class, so I literally am going to blaze out of here. So I shall see all of you a week from today. I think Renee is traveling. Renee, be careful. Amir, our thoughts are with you, and we hope that you're feeling better. And anybody who needs anything, reach out to me, reach out to Dr. Bunting, reach out to your JD tutors or your linguistics tutors. We're here to help.
Wonderful. And well, she's gone, blazing out of here.
Yeah.
And so one thing, we were going to try and do one more thing today where I wanted you to read something about a motorist who got a citation for flashing lights. But we don't really have time for it today. So I'm gonna post this in iCollege. So all you have to do is read it and be ready to discuss it next week. And actually, here, I'll show it to you. If you guys, are you
Where
guys?
did I see this? I feel like I saw this somewhere.
Did you see it?
Yeah, I can't remember where, but yeah, a motorist who was arrested for flashing lights.
Oh, this is a classic. Yeah.
Alerting the other drivers to the presence of
Yeah.
police officers.
Something I've done before, but I never got pulled over by the police, fortunately.
Well, I've always tried to do it, but I never figured out how to do it. So.
Yeah. So what this is so all you have to do, this will be for next week. You have a vocabulary notebook that's due next week. And then I just want you to read this and be ready to talk about it. And one of the things, the reason why Professor Lawler likes having this kind of thing is that this is a very common type of assignment. So be sure that you look at what the questions are that they are asking. And remember, so you want to be able to identify what the facts are, what the issue is, the argument you would make for the motorist, the argument you would make for the prosecutor, and then who will win, or to hedge, who is likely to win. Okay. I know. Now, are you guys going to be going? Do you go now and watch the live show with Professor Lawler?
Yes.
Some of you, yes. Some of you, no. Okay. Also, did she tell you? I don't know. We're going to stay online in this class. Did she let you know that?
Not yet. But
no, that's what I asked that question earlier today.
Yeah, and we are going to stay online for this class. I hope that doesn't inconvenience anybody to be online. We talked with the people in the College of Law, and they determined that, you know, the idea is we actually want to, and I think this is good public policy. We want to reduce the number of people who are coming into contact with each other. And as much as I would love to be with all of you face to face, I think it really is we're still not over the hump with all of these issues that we're dealing with for public health. Do you guys have any questions or any thoughts? I'm happy to stay here with you if anybody wants to stay, and we can look at this Florida motorist, but I will post that in iCollege for you to look at. It's whatever you guys want. I know it's late. I heard some people are grabbing beer, some people are grabbing food, all of those things.
Yeah.
So whatever you guys want. Yeah.
It's about plagiarism.
Oh yeah.
I'm concerned. I don't want to become a victim, but if you've kind of acquired some opinions or what, well, I shouldn't say opinion, but over time, if you've adopted some ideas from other people without being consciously, aware, and you write about it, but you don't know who to give credit to. I mean, how do you know that it wasn't your original idea, but it's something that you've acquired over time?
Well, I think that's a very good question, Julia, because it is, and there's, I believe there are gray areas to that. The thing where it's absolutely clear is if something is taken and copied directly from either another student's paper or from some internet source or some other source. That, there's no question, you cannot do that.
Okay.
The question that you ask is a more complex question because it is looking at ideas and what is the ownership of the idea. So if it's something, if you're going to talk about something that is a famous court decision and you're going to talk about that, you need to make sure that you reference that.
Right.
If it's something that's very general, you know, like according to John Bunting, the sky is blue, you don't need to do that. But if it's something that is really specific and essential to your argument, and you know that it came from somewhere, it's not what we would consider just general knowledge or sort of a logical assumption, then you want to go back and find that source.
Okay.
And I know that that's hard because it doesn't give you a clear delineation or a clear point where this is okay and this is not okay. So it's always better to proceed with caution, and that if you have too much citation, that's less troubling than if you have no citation.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things, certainly, for example, in our class, you can also, talk to folks as you're working on your writing to see about, what is that you need. Also, it depends on the assignment that you're doing, because if it is an assignment where the instructor or the professor may tell you, you don't have to cite things here, then you're okay. But they, if it's a more formal paper, typically those are going to be, ones where you want to make sure that you have the citations. The good news is we have the internet, so it's easier to find those things. But if it's something that is, for example, from a specific issue that it's not likely to be published somewhere, you can just make a reference that you heard this from experienced lawyers 20 years ago. And you may not have to necessarily cite them if there's nothing to cite, but you raise a very good question, because that is a challenge.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why I give you the opportunity to put things in that, turn it in and all that,
Right.
so that you're able to see what we're able to see. And you can, so like when I open up a paper and it's got 50% is taken from somewhere else, that's not a good sign. Or even 20% is pretty shaky.
Okay.
I hope that helps. I hope that helps.
Yeah, very much. Because it was I worried about that.
Yeah.
That, I have some ideas that weren't originally mine, but from over time, listening to people, discussions, and other things, and I'm like, okay, I don't know where this one came from. But...
And it's tough because we have a phrase: "There's nothing new under the sun."
Right.
So everything came from somewhere, but you do have to be careful. Umar, did you have something?
Yes, I was saying this is clear that copy and paste is a plagiarism, right?
Yes.
But sometimes we read articles, we get the idea, and we write that into our own language. So that would be fine.
Well, I think that kind of connects to what Julia was just talking about, is that if you are taking an idea that, and this is where it's a hard thing to figure out, like, where do you determine the ownership of an idea? I think I showed you something from a law review article about immigration. Maybe it was last week or the week before, and he was talking about how people view the rights of citizens versus non-citizens. If you're going to be talking about that and using the ideas from that, even if you put it in your own words, you need to cite that source. You need to say, this is from David Cole's article in 2003. So there's the issue of the copy paste, which is really clear. That one's easy. The issue, and I think this is what Julia was talking about too, is if you're taking an idea, first of all, as a thinker, you have to determine, is this idea worthy of the ownership of somebody? And if it is, do I need to cite it? My rule of thumb is if I found it somewhere, and it's not where I've taken two ideas and put them together, if I find this idea somewhere and it's fully formed, I need to cite that. And one of the best things to do, and this is especially for all of you being in the law school, is this is a great topic to discuss with those JD students that you work with, because they have been thoroughly indoctrinated into this what I think is a very unique US perspective on ownership of ideas. So they'll be able to tell you, it's very likely that the professor this will be a red flag for them, or this is not a problem. but it's tough. And that's why, like I say, I'm going to be, and Professor Lawler too, we're going to revisit this several times with all of you. I hope that helps, Umar.
Sure.
So, Bunty, what I want to say is that when I was in university in Nigeria, I had to write a project and stuff, and for every sentence, like everything that was a fact in what I wrote, my lecturer was like, "You had to get it from somewhere. You are not the originator of this fact." So basically, what I used to do at the time was to like copy that sentence I wrote, which I thought was mine, and search for it on maybe like Google Scholar or something. And if it brings out an article, I go through the article, and if I see it's very similar, and if that's the originator of that idea, I usually cite the author of that article. I don't know if that will work.
Well, I think that's a useful, I'd say that's a partial strategy. So that, because one of the things, and I know I do this, you know, because we're overwhelmed with data, with information. And so it's very easy to have lots of information, and sometimes you forget where it comes from. And I actually will, I can even share a quick, oops, wait a minute. I will tell you something. Actually, I'll tell you this thing right here. I should cite where I got this from, and I don't have it cited here for you. Even on a PowerPoint, you should have it cited. Like I should tell you, because this came from a book on legal writing, and I should give you the page number where this particular example was from and the publisher. So it is true that you want to make sure that you have it, you are not inadvertently copying an idea. But the way you describe it to me is a little bit reverse, because that really should be when you're doing your research, you find the ideas. And you make a note of that as you're doing the research, not after you've already written it. Do you see what I mean? But as a final check, I think that that's an excellent idea. And that's sort of what I'm doing with this folder for you and Turn It In. Once you've written something, you put it in there and you say, oh my God, you know, it was late at night. I saw something and I thought this is really interesting. I copied it and put it in a note, and then I forgot that I didn't write it. So, you know, you don't want that to happen, because that is a heartbreaking situation.
I want to share a habit that I developed. Every time I'm writing a phrase that I might use, or I like it very much, I copy the link as well.
Excellent.
So I have tons of information, because I forget, that's for sure. Or it happened to me that I like an idea very much, and I went back and I couldn't find it. They removed the article or something, but I couldn't find it to cite it anymore. And then I couldn't use the idea, and it was so annoying. So I copy and paste what I ever want to write, and then I copy the link so I can refer later if I want to use it.
I think that's a great strategy, because you don't, I mean, especially when you start getting lots and lots of information, it's very difficult to remember where something comes from. So thank you, Lily. That's very good advice.